What is the reality of having over 700 trees in your bonsai garden? That is the reality. You find loads of trees and potential bonsai which have got weeds all over them, they've got wire in them, they're heavily overgrown, and there seems to be no plan or hope for the future. Many of you will say, Xav, you're probably killing more trees than developing. But you know what? Maybe, just maybe, you're wrong. Hi, it's Xavier. Welcome to a bonsai retreat. And yeah, I know, probably a bit emotive to begin with, but I have had that comment, probably when I look back over 4 years, more often than not. I've got too many trees. It's cruel. I've had a few people say it's cruel. And look, I'm not going to get into the debate about whether plants feel or not. I have my own views, but you know what? I've always maintained that for me, this is a hobby. This is something that has kept me out of trouble, perhaps, because I don't have a job. And you know that my wife died, you know that various things have happened, and this has really saved my life, along with everyone out there who's kept this community going. So I'm going to say thank you very much. But now let's go back to that big one, the reality, the truth of having over 700 trees in your garden. And I can only manage it because I can do it full time. But it gets tiring and it does create problems. So we're not going to do a garden tour. We're most certainly going to be looking at this Italian Alder and trying to get it back in check. I may see what I can do with this flowering lilac. Not sure what. And I will also be having a good look at this Escallonia, which was originally a nursery plant growing in one of my borders and left for years. When I started going to town on it and doing lots of cuts, there's actually a series or a playlist that's developing with this Escallonia. And I haven't forgotten it. Yes, it's got weedy. Well, there's a lot of stuff that's got weedy in this garden. But the wire's there. It's looking all right. Probably needs to come off. But really, we just need to pull this back, have a look and see what we've got. And probably did a little bit of wound healing here, despite the fact that I say I don't. I might just have another look at that, but that's healing nicely. And just decide where we're going to go for next. But you know what? There's the promise of 3 different trees we're going to look at, but that's not the only thing we're going to look at. We're also going to deal with more of the reality of having so many nursery beds and stuff, because these weeds don't just happen there. And one of the things that you've often heard me talking about is the railway bed. And the railway bed is because I made it up with a load of railway sleepers with the help of my son James. And this was originally going to be my nursery beds, where I was going to develop stuff for Yamadori and all that sort of trunk building and stuff like that. And in the end, because I've got so many cuttings actually, it has become the depository for all the stuff that I want it to get full sun, because this is what this gets here. But also it's just another area to stack everything together. And looking at it, there's all sorts of stuff in here. I mean, we've got this Chinese elm, which is, again, I noticed this is the sort of thing you miss. It's got scale insect on it. So every now and then I have to spend my time, I don't believe that. I don't know if you caught sight of that, but I've just had a bird pooing on my shoe. It all happens here in the bonsai retreat. So yeah, for those of you who might think the sound of birds in the background might be added on as a track, it most definitely isn't. In fact, there's 2 just over there who are waiting for me to do this job, because it makes it easier for them to get the worms. So I'll tell you what, let's have a look at the scale. And when you've got scale, all you can really do is, in the end, I had a rag normally near me to wipe my fingers, but I just go along the trunk and wipe them all off. And normally they're the biggest issue I find on my Chinese elms, and particularly difficult to find on the cork bark elms. Again, each of them I'll individually go through, have a look. I've got a weed deep in here, pull those out. I've always got my weeding basket beside me, some Scotch moss, get rid of that, until eventually at least the soil is is clear and the trunk is also clear as well. And if you ever look in there, there's a nice bit of bonsai soil, and do you know what? This has the makings of a really nice tree. Normally the equipment I'll have with me when I'm on my weeding run is I'll have my chopstick for just digging out some of those harder weeds, and just I like to loosen the soil up a bit and just have a little dig around underneath. Sometimes I find there's oribals down beneath the soil line. I will have my gloves on. Good old little trowel to just dig around down there to loosen off some weeds like these. That's another one there. And normally some shears and knob cutters. And again, that's just so that this is probably the only time I'm going to look at this tree, so I'll literally go back and do a very rough pruning to what I believe will be the rough profile. And it's stuff like this. What it normally means, it's in my head now. I know this is here, and I will just take it right back, and it'll go back into the melting pot, so to speak. It's an ideal thing to do when the clouds are over, I find, as well, because many of you will know that I have sensitive skin. It's like my feelings, it gets hurt easily, and I can just sit here and prune away to my heart's content while the birds poo on me, which, as you've seen, they like to do. And again, it's a Chinese elm, so you really don't need to be too bothered about how far you prune back, because there's buds all over these things. Not perfect. Probably need to take that top off, actually. There we go. And having done my pruning on that, I'll find an appropriate place to plonk it, which right now doesn't exist. So I've got to try and clear this out and make sure. I've got a stump there that I think I cut back a lot earlier in a video. It's got loads and loads of growth on it. Love cork bark. Goodness, got some Buddhist pine here. They were out here when it was a bit cold, so they're looking a bit yellowed off. But I want to get these weeds out of the way, because the trouble with having great big weeds like these growing up is they shade some of our trees from the light. So you find little things like this in there, and this looks like it was actually a little Fuji cherry, but as you can see now, it's a dead Fuji cherry. I could just if I just check the bark, just scrape along there with my shears, start higher up. If it's green, nope, don't know if you can see in there, but definitely green there. So that just means all the leaves have come off, and that will be fine later in the year. So I need to get these weeds out, and that, when you've got a garden that's absolutely full of trees and planting beds, takes up a lot of time, but is very important to stop nearly dead ones becoming dead ones. And I've certainly got a few of those over there. Got this oak here. This is potentially going to be an absolutely brilliant little tree in a few more years, and while I'm going along, it's got a moss covering on the top, and I just want to make sure things like that are removed. There's a load of moss around the trunk. Clear that, have a little look under the leaves. Got aphids under the leaves, so I also need to get my spray and spray them. And that's the other problem when you've got loads of trees in beds. It quickly becomes difficult to, one, identify whether you've got aphids starting to develop. And thankfully on this air layer maple, they're not there yet, but that was sitting next to that, so it doesn't take long for the aphids to go, hang on a minute, I'm going to have a bit of a chomp on that maple. So it is important. Got this lovely little flowering Cotoneaster, lovely little pink flowers about to come out, and a lot of the time this is the downside. I'll often miss all these lovely moments when there's all this wonderful flowering shrubs and they just get lost in here. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be like that forever. You'll notice that every year there's new stuff I can bring to the retreat and show you. It's been here all the time, it's just suddenly I can look at it and go, do you know what, I'll develop that. And it's very rare that actually a tree gets wasted because I haven't been able to do work on it. It just means it grows stronger, or that's going to be an interesting one. So anyway, so I need to get in there and start pulling some of these weeds out. Write down in the comments if you want to spend the next 45 minutes watching me weed my my bed. I know the answer to that already. So should I take you to one that looked like this yesterday but doesn't look like that now? Little blackbird there. We've got trident maple there. Lovely roots on this trident maple. This, again, I do have success with my trident maple cuttings. That could do with a bit of wire on it actually. That is the risk, and that is a big risk. So you get something like this, the longer it's left alone, the straighter and harder it is to do anything with that trunk. So, you know, there is some downsides to leaving stuff ignored. I'll tell you what, before I show you what this bed looks like cleaned and actually show you the upper bed, which I did yesterday, there's some interesting trees in there. Why don't we go back and deal with the ones I promised you'd see me working on, which is first of all that incredible Escallonia, which I think is going to make an absolutely incredible tree one day. Just needs a bit of patience. There we go, that's all those roots done. This is another Italian Alder, which, you know, it's going to take years, but every year I leave it and I look at it and then I suddenly think, you know, potentially that's got a future, and then I start spending more time looking at it and then you guys will start seeing it. So just got to finish putting a few more roots up, and while I'm doing that, why don't we head up to the Escallonia and start working on that. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that mess down there and the bird poo on my shoe. But now we have to try and get into a position where we can appreciate exactly how this is looking. And I find, again, this is what I use the chopstick for. Because what I don't want to do is actually break the roots on these big dandelion style weeds. I really want to get the whole thing out. They grow and regrow all the time. So you really do want to try and remove those stubs if you possibly can. Easier said than done a lot of the time. And of course, doesn't that look different now? It's well, you can see a bonsai tree for there, and what I discovered almost immediately was close in to the actual trunk line. There was the development already of the mushroomy style fungus, which has been absolutely blighting my big silver birch. And to be honest, if you want to see a life or death story on that big 4-foot Yamadori, it's another great reason to hit subscribe, bell notification, all that stuff, because that's going to be a big time lapse which may or may not have a happy ending. Don't know yet, so it's important. And if I hadn't got in there and just had a look, then what would happen is that it just slowly rots away all this lovely hard wood that you've got at the base of this nabari that you're so desperate to achieve with your bonsai. So it is so important that you keep these areas clear. And I'm looking the front somewhere around there. As I say, get the toothbrush on it, and I know people use different solutions to clean the bark. I just tend to use the toothbrush and it seems to do all right. So that's looking lovely. And already, look, I tell you what, before we do any work on it, let's get in close. It's very much like juniper in the fact you can start peeling off layers of bark, you get this incredible red colour. And if you just lift away bark there, you can see that lovely red colour. Absolutely gorgeous. These are the sort of things that will probably take quite a while to do, and it's something you do slow time, but all very important work. There we go. And the other thing about it to be aware of is with this flaky bark is that although we love what's under it, we're not the only ones who love what's under it, and we always need to be watching out for potential insects that may be hiding under there, seeking solace from the wind, rain and elements, but ultimately they will always end up destroying your lovely prized potential bonsai. So yeah, always get all the flaky bark off. Now I can see there is definitely wire on it, and I'm just going to see it's been on for quite a while. These things, when they start growing, grow quickly. What I don't want to do is risk marking this in any way, so I am going to remove it now, and hopefully it's done the job I wanted. But again, when you've got a lot of trees, these are the things that generally you find you forget or miss, and the result of missing a piece of wire like that is these branches that I'm growing can end up getting absolutely marked and scarred. Whereas here, they're fine, they're out in the position I want them, and we've got some nice growth on them. So I'm going to remove this and the other piece of wire, and I think we only need to do a little bit of directional pruning back to shape. Now I've put a lot of thought into this, because I could every sort of 4 or 5 months keep wiring it out, keep these branches going down, but it's a shrub, it loves to produce loads and loads of growth. I think this is an absolute ideal candidate for clip and grow. So if I'm looking at the front, I still think this is going to be the front here. All I need to do is have a look and see where it's producing growth that I want, and there's some lovely buds lower down, so we'll cut to them. Here, got a nice bud there that's coming out, so I'm going to cut all the way back to there. And I'll say now, I've got some Escallonia cuttings that they were just simply a bit of soil, poke them straight in, fine. Now I can look at this, I've got an upward one here, get rid of that, and you'll know quickly it's the same principles always. I can either prune back to profile initially, get rid of stubs and nubs. What I wanted to do is, because I removed so much green growth, lovely bark, let's get rid of that, it'll do like it's done here. It'll just send out buds on bare wood. This is still in the early development stage. I've got my primary and some of my primary branches here, secondary branches, but I need to get stuff like this to thicken up. And I mean, you're looking closer here, you can see where you're getting bud back happening that I can use myself here. So I'm now just basically going to continue to work my way around this, take back all this unwanted long growth. Some stuff I'll keep green, but here I know I've got some lovely shoots that'll be great, and try and encourage this to actually send stuff in the direction that I actually wanted. And all I do is continue to go around shortening and cleaning stubs, 3 from the same point. So really, do I want to keep that one or do I want that one? And I think actually that's a 90 degree. Oh, I don't know. Let's shorten this off and just have a look at it. Shorten this off and have a look at that one. Not sure. I think I should have kept the other one. And again, so I'm just going to shorten these off. I probably don't want all this growth there. Probably don't want that one up there, to be fair. And just cut there. And of course, I'm always saying there is no right or wrong answer per se when we're doing it as a hobby. This is never going to be a show tree. So I've got decisions to make. This lower branch here, I've actually got a nice horizontal one going out. And I could make the decision of removing this entire section here, which is all pointing upwards. Now, bearing in mind, I've now made the decision I'm not wiring. That would allow me to deal with this area here, which has got no taper at all. And yes, I know taper's not an issue, but it's something I'm looking at. So do I actually cut that off there, which will then allow me some space here. And because this is an experiment, I can actually do it in stages. So let's first of all remove that section there. So I've still got this one here, and you know what? I am going to remove it. Now I'm going to let this continue to grow out because I actually want this to grow strong, but I also want to reduce the risk of dieback by taking off quite a big hunk of wood. So I'm going to continue now to have a look at what we've got and basically cut back to what I think are going to be good usable shoots. So that's that whole lower branch resolved, and really there we go. It's been cut right back. Not a lot of greenery on there. In fact, that's the only really big long green branch, but I know how Escallonia reacts. I know it's healthy. I know this is going to put on a load of back budding, and each time I do this action once a year, it gives me more usable branching and shoots to make for what I ultimately think will be probably a really nice bonsai. So the only thing I will do is just a general fertilizer, just give it an extra boost at this time of year. I want it to put on loads of growth, and I'm now going to continue to remove all this flaky bark so that I can, one, make sure we haven't got bugs under there, but two, so I can enjoy that lovely burnished red colour. So while I'm doing this, why don't you go back down and have a look and see the upper part of the railway bed and see what a growing bed or a nursery bed should look like when it's done. Do like this. This has come on so well. Now this is the top half of that railway bed. Got a load of larches and oaks down the side. Again, look at some of these, and I mean, this has loads of development still to do. It's pretty well taperless straight trunk, but look at all these weeds that are growing in amongst it. And the risk is with all these weeds, they will create a pretty horrible mat of roots below the surface, which will eventually choke out and kill your prized or future bonsai. So again, it's a hard job, but I look here now and I weeded in here, it looked as bad as that did. We've now got some sight of some really nice Chinese elms, all from cuttings. Again, little Japanese maple, oak, very difficult and hard to develop. It's a red oak. Another red oak here. A couple of weeds. So now's the opportunity to get in there and pull them out. Another nice, gosh, that's a really nice Chinese elm. Still can't remember what this is called, so I'm sure the name's coming up. Really interesting bark and stuff on it. Very interesting, and I've just found another one here, and this one indeed is actually sage. And the reason why I often mix these up with sage is if you look in the leaves, they're much more standard leaf looking, whereas the sage, look at this, see the movement on that trunk, but you get the lovely purple flowers that are starting to come out, and the actual leaves, if you look on the inside of them, are they've got a very sort of skin sort of texture, and it also smells like sage as well. But that, I mean, that's going to be really awesome, the movement on that. And in fact, all I need to do is remove that, remove that, shorten that, get rid of all the dead horrible leaves, and there we go. It's nice. I like that. I'll keep eye on that actually. But I do find with the likes of sage and I can't remember, I really can't, is that they don't do well when you start putting them into bonsai pots. I've certainly discovered that. Anyway, so that's the railway beds, and one of the areas that I keep a lot of my stuff. And I've just remembered buddleia. So we've got buddleia and we've got sage. Two very different garden plants, but there you go. I keep forgetting the buddleia for some reason. So here we've got this lilac, and the flowers are absolutely incredible. There's lots of bud points though here, and I've never worked with lilac. This was something that Dawn Isaac passed my way when she dropped in. So I thought, well, the obvious thing to do is get a bit of wire on it first. Okay, well, it's well and truly bondaged up. So all I am going to do is lift it, and you can see that there's a whole mat of roots, which is what you'd expect. I'm just going to put some more soil in the bottom. Just loosen it just a weeny bit. I mean, I know I could probably cut a load of that off. I really could. But I don't think I need to necessarily. I really want this to have solid form. There we go. And then I could probably get away with just putting a little bit of soil down the sides. But certainly this needs to go in the database because I'm going to have to do some repotting on this. Yeah, I know there's loads of you shouting out, Xav, you could have repotted that. But let's leave it in there for now. It's experiment, and then it's bending this way. I've got the curves on that way, so let's just see what I can do with it. Different. I'm going to keep wiring around at that, and I'll show you what I achieve in the end. It is just a matter of preference. There's no golden answer or solution. It's just what I like, really. Okay, there you go. All quite a lot of fun, really. Just notice it's quite actually two-dimensional. So I might just need to have a bit more of a play with it. If you see there, that's definitely like a piece of paper, isn't it? So I'll put something there, but what I'll show you is you've got the curves and movement in there. Exaggerated movement, but it's based at points like here, where I've got buds really close in. They're the ones I want. Moving up, I've got buds there. They're the ones I really want. And even up here, I've got buds here and here. Again, they're the ones I want. I'd imagine that later on in the year, I'll remove a lot of this growth. In fact, the only reason I've kept it on is so that I've got at least something that's still got some greenery on it. So, with all that future cuttings and bonsai gold in there, what, I've probably added another 40 or 50 to the 700 plus I've already got. But that brings us back to this one, which I'm going to be honest with you, I really don't see a plan for yet. I continue to let it grow. It's nice and healthy, but it's struggling because it's got absolutely nothing on this side here. Maybe there's potential for doing a thread graft on it actually, and in fact, why don't we do that? Let's keep one or two of these branches available and potentially do a thread graft. Probably want it here. So cut back stuff that we know we don't want, which is junction stuff, anything that's in the wrong direction. The thing about overgrown stuff like this, and you'll find it happens with your beech, hornbeam, all those sort of broadleaf categories like that, is that they very quickly shade out the light and you end up losing the chance for growth closer in. That stuff dies in, or indeed you get all your aphids all over it. So it's very important to do a defoliation. I always do a semi-defoliation. So I'll always in a branch remove one of two leaves, so probably lose about 50% of the leaf structure. In fact, why don't I give you a slow 360 while I'm thinking about it also. It has got a really nice nabari or potential nabari there, and as I say, I bought these as saplings, a bunch of 20 of them back in 2015. So it's 10 years old. It's also been out in a growing bed for a while, but I'm going to go pretty radical on that and select 2 or 3 potential thread graft branches. While I was starting to prune, there was something I noticed straight away, and I haven't actually thought about dealing with up till now. And here it's because we've got 2 branches and they're actually coming out literally from the same point down there. Now it's not that I'm worried about, you know, adverse swelling, inverse taper or anything like that, but I'm wondering whether if I just remove it, it's going to allow me a little more options on it. I mean, it's a lot of structure, but no, let's just do that. Let's get in there and remove it. I think so, because that allows me a front up here somewhere maybe, and then I can thread graft something either lower down. I don't want to do the inside of the bend, but there's that bend there, but I just think that might be the way forward. So I've removed that. Now all I need to do is put a little bit of cut paste on it to aid in the healing, so that it'll roll over nicely, create a nice clean wound, and also stops the risk of infection. Okay, well, I actually like it's already cleared it up a lot more. I'm wondering whether I actually change the angle slightly. Yeah, I think I can get something on there maybe. Going upwards perhaps. Anyway, then we continue to cut back and then we'll see where we're going with the ideas. You might actually have a better solution, bearing in mind I can't do the thread graft till next year. Right, well hopefully all of you are noticing there's been a bit of a change. And you can see obviously this is the area that I'm most concerned about. But I've recognised that that is going to be my potential thread graft. And I might put some loose wire to get the shape, and I'm looking at bringing it that way so that it potentially either comes up. I'm thinking of actually bringing it up almost like a secondary trunk, but that's going to be the exit point this side. Not exactly sure how, so I've just reduced side branches and I want that tip to continue to grow, which is why I might just get some wire on it and already get it shaped so that it's already going in the position that I want it on. Apart from that, I put a little bit of wire here just to push that branch up and bring this one downwards. And look, this is the problem, this half moon, this crescent shape, so it's about finding a front that disguises it. So that's my plan, that to be thread grafted up that way and potentially create either upwards and then across something a bit more unusual. But you know, the challenges for some of these trees just keeps on keeping on, so to speak, and that's what makes it so much fun, I think. And you tell me, maybe it never will ever make it to the stage of bonsai, but you know what, I'm going to keep on trying, because I'm starting to feel hope for this. So there you go, you've seen a lilac, an Italian alder, and also the Escallonia. These will all get put to the bottom end of the garden. Obviously they've had a lot of stuff removed, so they're going to stay in the shady part, probably down by the greenhouse area, and you probably won't see them again until 2026. So again, if you want to see updates and see how all these 3 get on, then keep an eye on my channel, hit the bell notifications, select all, and that way you'll always be notified if I've got a new video out, because guess what, you can be subscribed, but if you for whatever reason miss 2 or 3 of my videos, YouTube decides you don't want to watch them, they don't put them on your feed anymore, and that's why you might find that some of your favourite creators just seem to disappear. I'm not a favourite creator, I know, but anyway, so that plus having a look at some weeding, growing beds, stuff that dies, that's the reality of having over 700 trees, of which a few are starting to develop into nice bonsai. Yeah, I hinted at this Tanuki, which is going to show up in a future video along with the silver birch photograph challenge, and I really want to highlight it because it's the first time I tried to do a proper Tanuki using driftwood, well actually using the old trunk of a cork bark elm, which is still very, very solid. Someone said to me it would rot, but it hasn't, and the tree hasn't got any sort of fungus or infections from it. But I did this in a project in 2022 first ever use of my Dremel tree. In fact, that's the video I suggest you watch. Apart from that, enjoy spring, enjoy the sun. Happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.